most respected Shri Mani Narayana Swami, who is presiding over this function, Chief Guest Vidwan Yella Venkateswara Rao, Guest of Honors, Honorable Member of Parliament Shri K.C. Ramamurthy, and Dr. A. Ravindra, distinguished scholars, connoisseurs, students of Carnatic music and this institute, friends from the media. I am similarly privileged to be amongst you today and honored to inaugurate this Kriti Mahotsav. This is a befitting tribute to the legend Saint Thyagaraja during his 250th birth anniversary. Thyagaraja was a musical genius. He was an expressive poet, a erudite preacher, a philosopher with a yogic vision, and an epitome of self-discipline. Since 18th century, if you look at the history of Carnatic music, he is the preeminent composer among his contemporary trinities, as well as all the composers who followed him. And obviously, he has been synonymous with Carnatic music, and that's why we are doing this today. And I compliment Sangeet Academy, Sri Ram Seva Mandali, and Sangitya Asthana for this laudable initiative. I believe that Indian music revolves around a triad. The triad is aesthetics, grammar, and spirituality. As a performing artist, when we start, it's essentially for entertainment. It becomes slowly a means for self-expression. Then it becomes realization of God, the superpower. And finally, the ultimate bliss comes to the artist, musician, or dancer, and the audience. For any performing artist, musician, or dancer, it is essential for them to introduce poetry. Essentially, that means you should be able to learn much more about it before come to interpret it either as music or dance. And that's the reason sometime in the late 70s I was compelled to learn more about Thyagaraja. And the first and foremost reference document for me was Spiritual Heritage of Thyagaraja, published by RADHAKRISHNAN Mission, Mylapore, that gives 569 compositions of Thyagaraja with an introductory thesis by Dr. Raghava. And that introductory thesis runs into 222 pages. It is much more than several PhD theses in music. And I believe that any student of classical music should read, study that document. There are many more which have come up. My guru from Hyderabad, Dr. Nukala Chinnasatyanarayana, gave a set of lectures in my Madras Music Academy, and he produced a monograph on Thyagaraja's Ghanaraga Pancharatna. Again, that is a scholarly document. Then we have a Prahlada Bhakti Vijayam, that is by Gauri Kuppuswamy and Dr. Hariharan. Sangeeta T.K. Govindarao brought out compositions of Thyagaraja, where he brings out 688 compositions. And our own Sri S. Krishnamurthy and Sri D.N. Padmanabhan, they brought out Thyagaraja Vajanamrita. While there is a mythical feeling that Thyagaraja composed 24,000 songs on par with 24,000 shlokas of Ramayana. We would see at least 700 and odd of them documented in these books which I just now mentioned. And I myself have at least heard masters singing 250 of them. I learned about 50 from my revered gurus from Trivandrum, our Dr. R.K. Srikandan, Ramakant and Dr. Mukha. Also, when we look at the compositions in Telugu, it is essential for us to understand the meaning. Just to bring home the point, in our younger days, we used to listen to Endara, Nidana, Kendaponi. But after understanding the word by word music that came out in a book written by one gentleman called Mr. K.P.S. Menon, we understood is Endarani Tanu Yendaponi. So it's essential for anyone to understand the meaning. And that is the background with which I'm just going to share with you a few observations. And let me start with saying Viduragu Morkeda, Sangeetagu Viduragu Morkeda. Here, Thyagaraja gives obeisance to all those well versed in the divine music of Samaveda promulgated by Shankara. Mudamuna Shankara, Krida, Samadikama, Nadatmaka Saptaswara, that is what he talks about music. And also he talks about Brahmananda Sudambudhi Marma. Those people who understood the bliss of Brahmananda, to those people I am addressing. And that is the spirit of Indian music. Much of these compositions are descriptive about the Ishtadevada, Sri Rama mostly, and Shiva, Narada, etc. etc. But Thyagaraja gives important messages in his compositions, counsels, and shares with us his philosophical thoughts. And just a few examples of it. When we talk about Guru, which is more important in our system of learning music, he talks about 3 compositions. Guru Deva, Yeduvanti Gunigi. We must have a Guru. It is essential for us to have a Guru. And what that Guru should be, again, he talks about Nijittamu, Nirmalamu, Nishchalamu. That is the quality of a Guru. And the disciple says several things to clarify things there. And finally he says, you should be in the company of good people to earn wisdom. Buddhiradu, Buddhiradu. When we talk about the philosophy, there is a famous song, Dvaidamu Sukhama, Advaidamu Sukhama. Similarly, Edari, Sanjaritira. Which path I should take? And if he has to speak about it, it is certain that he understands some of these aspects. And he talks about music as Nada Yoga, as embodiment of God, Nada Dhanmanisha. Nada Sudhara Sambilan, Naragradaye, Nada Loruday, Brahmananda Mandave, Nadu Basanachi. These are all important elements of Thyagaraja's compositions. We talk about Kriti. He has defined what should be a Kriti or Kirtana. There is a composition, Sogasudha Pradangatalam, where he says, Nigamashirothamu Galgina, Nijavapuladu, Surashuddhamudu. Explore the true words of the exalted Upanishads which are marked by correct placement of swaras. And he says, Yadi Vishrama Sampatti, Virati Draksha Rasa, Navarasa Yudam Kriticha. That's rhythmic tunes and pauses which reflect true devotion and vairagya, which are dripping inside and out with juice like grape, and also rich in Navarasas. There are 700 compositions, and one important element there is a wide variety of the form and structure of these compositions as compared to even the other members, the trinities. On one side there is a very simple band music, Reminchuvara Virga, Sari Sama Padanipa. On the other side there is Jagadananda Karaga. You will be listening to it tomorrow. This complex structure, complex text, that is Jagadananda Karaga. When he talks about Sri Rama as a Dasa, as a devotee, there are 3 pieces in Bhairavi. Very simple Nama Sankirtanam, Rama Kodandarama. Then he gets into the next level of complexity. Upachara Mujaya Sevarinarani Maruva Kura. That is Dasya Bhava. Then comes the complex one, Upachara Guranu. It's called Petta Upachara in many places. And if you look at compositions like Dharini, Telisumundi, Chakkaniraja Margamu, Kuruvaragada Kodandapani, we see the Pallavi with Sangadis, complex Sangadis coming one by one. But compared to many music directors, they create music just to show the strength of his imagination or the prowess of the musician. He says the Sangadi has to be appropriate to the context. He says Sarasa Sangadi Sandarbha. 40 Melakarta ragas. And in some of them, there are only 1 or 2. We talk about Denuga, we talk about Charideshi, just to give an example. And finally, if you look at the personality of Thyagaraja, Dr. Raghavan gives a beautiful comparison, and let me wrap up with that. In sheer volume of output, he essays the direction of Purandaradasa and Kshetrajna. In devotion, religious fervor, reformatory zeal and spiritual realization, his songs approach those of Purandaradasa. When we think of him singing in anguish to his Rama, we find him a second Ramadasa of Bhadraja. In his lyrical modes, he takes a page of Kshetrajna. In his Pancharatnas and some of his heavier compositions, he treads the path of the earlier Prabandhagaras and later Varnagaras, turning out pieces now and then. In the language of gods, he seems to become his contemporary Dikshita. And when he sings of Mother Tripura Sundari, it appears as if Shama Shastri of Tanjore was sojourning in Tiruvachur. He could sustain himself through the task of a dramatic composition like Narayana Tirtha or Maratu Venkatramana Bhagavata and pay his homage to a Sampradaya sanctified by Jayadeva. Let me pay my obeisance to same composer Thyagaraja and formally inaugurate the Kriti Mahotsav. Thank you very much.